Hello my friends, my name is Faith Ayers. I come to you today to talk to you about what has been happening in the world, what has been happening in my life for the past few years. All I can say is that things have been wild. I think we've all been experiencing heightened levels of stress in our lives because of coronavirus, and I noticed that one thing that has been happening for me and I hear from a lot of my friends and my peers is that people are getting into a lot more fights because we're at home with our spouses, and we don't have that space to run away when we have too many feelings and we're trying to process our feelings. So unfortunately, it sounds like there's more domestic violence and higher rates of suicide. It's all out there. Information is out there. I'm not here to talk to you about facts today. I'm here to talk to you about feelings. In 8 years, I have been in 2 abusive relationships, and this is a unique experience for me, obviously, and for people in the world to have. I feel like usually people learn their lesson after one abusive relationship. It kept repeating for me. I've had a couple boyfriends who were nice, but something kept happening where I would fall deeply, deeply in love with people who were emotionally and a little bit physically abusive with me. Once I started to take stock in myself after these abusive relationships were over, I started to have this awakening and be like, what's happening here? Why is this happening again? Why is this a repeating pattern? I've never heard of anybody else going through 2 abusive relationships before. Once I started to see that there have always been patterns to the relationships in my life. I have always had a hard time expressing myself with my words, expressing my emotions. Every time I have a friendship where it gets to a certain point and I have to have hard conversations with them and put up my boundaries, I always end up just dropping them as a friend because I've never been able to have boundaries. Once I started recognizing these patterns, I said to myself, where is this coming from? Why universe? Why are you showing me this? And the answers I kept getting back from other people, myself during meditation, other oracles, the answer was that I did not love myself enough. It was true. If I can think back to beginning puberty, beginning my adulthood, my adult life in this world, I've always felt less than. And maybe that's because I always felt like during high school I had to live up to what other people were saying about me because I would never feel loved. And of course we could go even further and say these were the dynamics that I had with my parents growing up. And I don't ever want to minimize the love and devotion that my parents had for me. They were beautiful, beautiful parents. They loved me, they gave me everything, and they supported many of my emotional needs. But, as working parents do, they get tired, they get frustrated, and when that becomes a pattern, kids can take it really personally, and I have always been a really sensitive, extremely sensitive person, and I took it personally. So when my parents would come home from work really tired, and I just wanted to play or whatever, they would get really frustrated and I would take it really personally. And so I grew up with this pattern of thinking, okay, I need to cater to my parents' emotional need. I only know that looking back now and reading books like these and understanding how life-shaping those small traumas that you don't think about in childhood are for your children who are growing up. And I have a daughter now. With the last abusive relationship that I have a daughter, and she's 2.5. And I every day I look at myself and I try my hardest not to pass down the ways of being that I didn't agree with my parents, but it comes out of me naturally, right? Because that's what I grew up with and that's what I thought was natural. So every day I'm having to unlearn these patterns of getting frustrated with my daughter and speaking too loudly and scaring her, because these patterns behavior, these aggressive patterns of behavior are harmful. This pattern of trying to make other people happy, right? Being a people pleaser, being a perfectionist. And so this is what led me into being into two abusive relationships, because when I found these people, I fell in love with them because they were giving me advice on how to live my life. They were trying to help me have more boundaries with other people, but not with them, right? Every time I tried to have a boundary with my abusive partner, that wouldn't fly, obviously. So if any of this is sounding familiar to you, I want to be here for you as a resource to let you know that there is a way out. God, or the universe, whatever you want to call it, asks us to go through these situations to learn how to love ourselves more, to learn how to have boundaries, to learn how to take care of ourselves so we don't continue these cycles and we can call beautiful relationships into our life. And I have had a beautiful relationship since my destructive relationship with my ex. And I can't tell you how healing it has been, how beautiful it has been to experience love and love and joy and peace and stability in a relationship. I'm telling you, it is possible. It is possible, because it happened to me. 2 abusive relationships, my friends. But you have to learn how to love yourself first. I'm not even totally there. There's still many things about myself that I'm working on. But I practice. I have made self-love a practice. It Didn't Start With You, an amazing book. Why forgiveness is so important and why it didn't start with my abusers is that abusive people don't come from loving homes. Abusive people come from even more neglectful or abusive homes than the ones that they provide. In a way, my ex was doing the best that he could, and I understand that now. The core relationship that they've had with women has been very destructive. It's impossible for them to trust women without going through some kind of therapy and without really seeing a professional about it and reading the books that I've read. And so I understand, and if you're somebody who's going through an abusive relationship, or if you have in the past and you're trying to recover from it, the first thing that you need to understand is that there's no way for this person to change unless they seek help by themselves. So the whole reason that we need to forgive them is because there's a great, I think it's It's a Chinese proverb. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. There's not a single set of parents out there who are perfect and who could have met all of their children's needs. But there's, some who have done better than others. And this is why it's so important to forgive your abusers, because understand that they are not in control of their behaviors. Their subconscious mind is in control of their behaviors, and the only way for them to change their subconscious mind is to go to therapy to get help and to try to change their behaviors. But you can't do that for them. They have to want to do that by themselves, and usually that means being single and you not being a part of their life. I don't know what this means for you, but maybe this can be a seed that gets planted in your list of things to do. And I don't expect you to take action and leave your partner right now. I know it is an incredibly hard thing to do, but it was the best thing that I've ever done for my mental health and my well-being, because I was finally able to learn to love myself, to give myself the love that I needed. And that was my bad. Going into that relationship, if you go into a relationship feeling like you're never going to be able to do better than this person, take a big pause and maybe just hold off going into that relationship, because it's so important to cultivate self-love with yourself and unattachment to your relationships, that if they do end, it's not the end of the world for you, and you know that you're always going to love yourself. Because what happened for me is, after that relationship ended, I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and I felt like life was over. Develop a sense of self-love before you go into a relationship, and simultaneously develop unattachment to your relationships. Because one thing that helps with unattachment to your relationships is that when you're in them, you don't hold on to the relationship too tightly. And that can suffocate the other person and not make them want to be with you, obviously. And if it does end, you know that you're going to be fine. You know that you're going to be okay. How this abusive relationship relates to what's happening in the world right now is that people are starting to wake up, and people are starting to understand that it doesn't feel good to be told what to do from an authoritative standpoint. And this is so good. This is so good, because I believe that in the future we are going to have a government that governs less. And I believe that as people start to learn and heal and understand narcissistic abusive relationships, that we'll see the similarities and the patterns between what our government's doing to us now, and the abusive relationships that we've gone through in the past. So again, if that resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, take it or leave it. So another thing that has helped me greatly on this journey to self-love is my diet, because I don't know exactly what the statistics are, but it's something like a lot of your serotonin is made in your gut, and when you eat foods that are high in sugar and carbohydrates, processed foods like bread and pasta, it basically shuts off the ability in your gut to make serotonin and puts you in a very depressed place, and makes you much less likely to want to fight for yourself and give yourself love. Exercise, of course. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but if you're not exercising, you are doing nothing good for your body or your mental health. Exercising has helped me get through a lot of my traumas. You're able to somehow you're able to process a lot when you're running or working out. The physical aspect of exercising, lifting heavy things, running, walking, being in nature is so healing. And again, I'm not an expert on exercise, but these are the things that I've done to help me get through this really hard period of my life and to find more worth and more self-worth within myself. What I do for my self-love practice is that whenever I'm feeling sad or I start to hear thoughts of blaming myself for all of the shitty things that have happened to me in my life, I put my hand on my heart and one hand on my belly, and I take some deep breaths, and I just say, I love you, body. And I think about my heart and my organs and everything that has kept working for me and is working well during this whole process. Beautiful, even if that's the only thing that you have to be grateful for today. Create a gratitude practice. So every day when I wake up in the morning, I step outside. You can do this in your bed, wherever. I step outside and I think of 10 things I'm grateful for, and usually it's the same 10 things every morning. Paying attention to during the day, and it changes your thought patterns. Instead of being, my life is terrible, you start to think about the things you're grateful for, and you start to appreciate things more. You start to appreciate the sunset more, or beautiful trees, or a beautiful bush, and it really, 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 really helps with the self-love, because you can appreciate things about yourself more now. You can appreciate that you have nice lips or nice feet or whatever it is. That has helped me so much. Creating a practice for meditation. I've literally, for the past 3 years, I think I've only been able to do 10 minutes in the morning, and then this past year I worked up to 20, and now I'm at 30 minutes in the morning. And so literally, I don't think there's a right way to do meditation. I think all that it's asking of you in that moment is to just sit still, close your eyes, and try to silence your thoughts. And your thoughts will run away with you, but just try to come back to silence. Some people use their breath and some people meditate on a mantra and they say the mantra over and over again. But I think the most important thing is just to quiet your mind as much as you can and see what solutions come to you, see what thoughts that come to you that are helpful during meditation, because I notice there are thoughts that are helpful and there are solutions that come to you during meditation that are extremely helpful. So those are my big 3 recommendations of what you should do if you are trying to cultivate more self-love. It's so important to have self-love so you don't get into abusive relationships, and so you don't have an abusive relationship with yourself, right? That's the most important thing. If you have an abusive relationship with yourself, if you're telling yourself all these nasty thoughts like you're worthless, or you think about times where you made a mistake and did something embarrassing, it's so harmful, because you're telling yourself that you deserve this and that you're bad, that you're not a good person, and then you attract those kinds of situations into your life because it feels familiar to you, because it's the same conversation you're having with yourself over and over again every day. So I think that's all I have for now. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Faith. I'll see you next time.